I wanted to start by, talking business. Obviously, that's where your head's at now, and that's what's consuming a large majority of your time. But I want to take you back to when you were really young. You go to your Pop Warner coach's house and you see blueprints
Yes.
on the table.
Yes.
How did that impact you?
I think it has impacted me in a way that that has opened my mind truly. And this is what he did for me. I mean, he opened my mind to truly what life could be like without football. And so I started thinking about, okay, in my mind, I already said to myself, football is going to end at some point. All I wanted to go on and do the things that I've been able to do thus far through my sport. And I wanted to transition that into something bigger, not knowing what bigger was until I met Staubach, not knowing what bigger was until I met Irvin Johnson, not knowing what bigger was till I met other former athletes who had transitioned into Michael Jordan and others who has transitioned over into the world of entrepreneurship as well as free enterprise. When I saw that, then I understood that I had the capabilities of doing the same thing.
And you had some businesses during your playing career,
Yes.
but it's really taken off
Yeah.
post-career. I wonder, how does your enthusiasm for business compared to the enthusiasm that you had for playing football?
You know, I would say they probably one and the same.
Really?
In the context of excitement, the thrill of the chase, and the agony of defeat. So it's never good to lose an opportunity, and it's never good to disappoint someone that you're working with either. So just like in football, it is you letting down the fans. And not only letting down the fans, but letting down your teammates and your organization. In business, you're hurting families. You're hurting other businesses. So it's a lot more real. Fans, on the other hand, yeah, their feelings get hurt. But in business, livelihoods can change for the better or for the worse. So it's a little different, but they both kind of parallel each other.
You mentioned Roger Staubach. You also mentioned Irvin Johnson or Magic, and he's obviously the most notable example of business success, at least publicly among professional athletes. But Staubach, created a massive business empire for himself. Sold it not too long ago for hundreds of millions of dollars. Former Cowboys quarterback. Explain why you reached out to him early on in your career.
As you grow up, you encounter people that give you tad bits of wisdom along the way. And along the way, I've learned, and this came when I was a professional athlete through my marketing guy, Warner Scott at the time. He said, always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, but most importantly, you better learn from them along the way. And so learning from others along the way and having a connection with Roger Staubach and having a connection with the Irvin Johnson, but most importantly, having a guy that I was working for, like a Jerry Jones, who was able to allow me to sit down in his office and listen to some of his business conversations was paramount for me. And having this opportunity to have a dialogue with Roger and understand what he did actually just said to me, yes, I can do it. The question becomes not how you go about it. Well, it's a how and a when. How you go about doing it and when you do it. Investing in yourself after football is more critical than investing in others while you're playing football.
I believe you both interned and actually did work for Roger. What did you learn from him?
Well, I learned that some people talk about culture. Some people live culture. Roger Staubach is a person that lives culture.
How so?
His organization personifies greatness and ethical, caring, sharing. That's just the way everybody operated within that organization. Now, granted, there are some that probably didn't do everything that the Roger Staubach way, because everybody wants to put their thumbprints on certain things, and they may have the right to do that.
But he was doing it right at the top, and you saw it trickle down.
At the top, he got it right, and it trickled his way down. And that's why he was so respected in the marketplace, and did such a great job.
So you've obviously had the chance to start several companies. Tell about, the cliff notes of each of your companies.
Okay, E. Smith Legacy is a full-service real estate development company, and we truly focus on retail, multifamily, and hospitality. We go find a location in, let's just say, a trade area that we're willing to work in, and that may have some services there, but may need some additional services. We occupy some land, then we'll come in and get it obviously entitled. We'll take it through its entire process, and then we'll start the development once we have tenants lined up for the property. That's the development business. And we'll collect a fee, then we'll collect a promote on the backside with other people money. Other people money, OPA, OPM. Or what they say, are you down with OPP? This is OPM, other people money. And so that's the development business. Then I have E. Smith Realty Partners, which is a servicing business. It's very similar to the Staubach Company. We represent tenants across the country. And then there's E.J. Smith Construction. We are general contractors in the sense of the word. We focus on concrete placement, place and finish work. We're in a space of commercial construction as well as civil construction. And then I have Prova. I want to change the world of authentication. I honestly believe that there are folks out there that are spending significant capital on what they perceive to be real sports memorabilia merchandise. And the tools that they currently have right now, to me, are way outdated. I think technology has caught up to the point where we're able to put smart tags on items and add statistical data, add video data, including the point of when the item itself was authenticated and, matter of fact, autographed, if you will.
Wow.
And so
and you have firsthand experience
with
that, understanding the importance of actually, having the autographs.
Oh, without a doubt.
Not having.
Without a doubt. If someone's going to go out and someone's going to go out and pay. Matter of fact, I saw something on Facebook, and they talking about my autograph, and it was on a helmet, and I looked at the autograph. It's like my son drew it. So, and I was like, this is not my signature.
Right.
And so I had to reply back to it like, this is not my signature. Please don't buy it.
But how much of a challenge is access to capital?
When you don't have a true track record, access to capital is extremely tough, because you haven't proven yourself, if you will, in the marketplace.
And even the wealthy man like yourself, when you get into tens of millions of dollars, like, money can only go so far, and you want to, as you said, OPM, right? Other people's money.
That's one thing I've learned over the last 23 years, 24 years, if you will. OPM.
Right.
People use OPM money.
Right.
And at the end of the day, whether it's a real estate transaction or you go talk to a venture capitalist that believes in the Prova platform and what it's all about and the opportunity that lies there, if the space is big enough for them and they trust who you are and the team that you actually have that's working, that can execute against that space, then people invest in you. But it's always a challenge. Sometimes you go to, and what I found is you go to people, they say, well, you're thinking too small. Then you go to others, they say you're thinking too big.
Yeah.
So you got to find the right one that understands that you know your space very well. You're focused, you're committed, and you can execute against your game plan and bring this opportunity to the market, whether it's in real estate or whether it's in technology. Either way it goes, it's the same philosophy.
What do you think you personally have the most room for growth in when it comes to your own just professional development business-wise?
Oh, I have so much room for growth, whether it's in the areas of truly understanding every aspect of my business. That's always been a goal. Just like I did in football, understanding when our quarterback should be checking out of a run play and going to a pass play, and perhaps what pass play he should be going to. and understanding when we should be checking out of a pass play and running the ball and what run play we should be running. So reading those kind of things and understanding our offenses, to me, is like understanding business from business 101 to the highest level of business. And then it becomes how you interact with people, how you make people feel when you're trying to work with them, and not only that, but when you have a directive and you have to execute against that directive and how well you execute against it. It becomes performance then.
I want to take you back to when you were growing up. Your father drove a bus for the city.
Right.
Your mom was a document clerk.
Right.
You lived in the projects in Pensacola, Florida.
Right.
How aware were you of how little money your family had when you were growing up?
I wasn't that aware at all, to be honest with you, because how can you be aware of something when you've never been exposed to the other? Your experience in life is only limited to your knowledge base. And my knowledge base right there, I felt like I had the world. I was comfortable with that. And then Charlie Egger blew it wide open. And by doing such, it really elevated my mind to the possibilities.
And that being your coach?
My coach, when I was 12 years old. When I stayed over his house, and their house was 3,600 square feet, and I thought it was a pretty good, big house at that time, I got a chance to see how others lived and how we lived. There was nothing wrong with the way we live outside of not knowing that there was something different. But that changed. My mom and dad was able to move us out, and my grandfather was very instrumental in helping us do such. And we moved into our own home. So, but seeing that and realizing that that too is attainable, gave me fuel to want to go and do good. And I think that's the problem with some of our kids right now. They're limited in their thinking because they're not exposed to really what the possibilities are. I often say that people in the urban neighborhoods, they're not looking for a handout, they're looking for a hand up. They want somebody to give them an opportunity so they can go improve themselves. And if they do that, they're willing to earn it. They're willing to go out there and fight and do what they need to do to earn the right to earn that opportunity. But if you're telling them no, you can't, you only can go so far, frustration sets in.
You lived in a 2-bedroom home with your parents, your 3 brothers, your 2 sisters. I'd imagine
Actually, it was a 3-bedroom home.
3-bedroom
My sister
home,
had her
okay.
own room, and then my 3 brothers and I, we all slept in the same room.
That was nice. What do you think, though, having gone through the kind of tough times growing up, taught you about fiscal responsibility?
You know, the one thing that we didn't really talk about was financial literacy at that time, because we had so little. But my grandfather always told me to save my money. But he only was limited in his capacity, because the dollars that I saw was significant capital. But in this world that we call the financial world, you have to have a minimum of $50,000 to invest in anything, just about. And so not having the ability to sit around the room and have dialogue about how you save money, what you invest in, and all those kind of things was something that was not readily available in my household. I did not get exposed to that until I became a Dallas Cowboy and I got my first check. Wow. Then I'm sitting here talking with my financial advisors, and they're talking to me about a balanced asset allocation. What the heck that really means? Well, that means we're gonna put some of your money in bonds, we're gonna put some of your money in stocks, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna put some of your money in alternative investments. What the heck is an alternative investment? Okay, it's a little bit more riskier than stocks and bonds. Okay, real estate, venture capital kind of stuff, et cetera, et cetera. That's really what it truly meant. And understanding what that situation was all about helped me understand truly that it's not all about how hard you work, sometimes it's about how smart you work. And at the end of the day, your money can truly work as hard as you can and work even smarter than you can in some cases.
Why did you used to turn your shirt and pants inside out when you play?
Because my mom's, we used to play football after we get out of school, and I used to come home, my clothes dirty. And my mom said, I better not ever do that again. So I think I would get smart, turn the jeans pants inside out, turn the clothes inside out, then turn them inside out before I went back home, and everything looked like it was pretty normal.
You ever get caught?
I'm sure she knew exactly what was happening. I mean, we couldn't afford to have replacement stuff, and I'm out here damaging the items.
Why'd your dad not want you to play football?
I think my father didn't want me to play football because he knew how physically demanding the sport really was on the body. My father sustained a knee injury, and at the time, I mean, before he sustained his knee injury, I was told, and people oftentimes tells me this, he was the best running back in the city of Pensacola. And so, and to this day, that same knee, which he just had replaced, had full knee replacement surgery about 2 months ago in June, was bothering him. And so now he has a new knee, and he's moving on with his life now. But I think that experience that he had, he didn't want none of his kids to go through it. And so, fortunately, my mom wanted us to have a complete experience. How can you deter somebody from their passion? Right. And so, at the end of the day, it worked out.
Well, it's surprising because it's usually the other way around. It's usually the mom saying, no, we don't want.
My mom loved football more than I did. My mom was a football fanatic. She loved the sport of football. And my mom probably believed that her son could do anything in football.
Really?
Yes.
So when you and your dad are awaiting your certain election into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, what does he say to you in a private moment?
In a private moment, my father tells me, he says, son, you're doing the things that I wanted to do. He said, you're living my dream. And that's really one of the first times that he truly opened up like that. And it was kind of cool to see, but it was heartfelt because I knew that he had played the sport, and it had to be hard on him to watch his son go out and become that individual that he really wanted to become. And so he probably looked back over his life. I can only imagine. He probably looking over his life, thinking about what his life could have been. I was just hoping that he's proud that I was able to pick up the mantle where he left off at and carry it further and do the things. And I think the Hall of Fame solidified that for him.
Well, and you spoke about that conversation a little in your, Hall of Fame acceptance speech, but it got to you then, and you can even see now talking to you, it touches you.
Yeah, it does.
What is it about that conversation?
Because the human spirit itself is such a powerful thing, and I am the descendant of my father. My father was given a considerable amount of talent, and so was I. And I'm just thankful that I didn't squander it, and was able to maximize it to its fullest. And I'm still trying to maximize it to this day, because the things that my father did not have access to, I now have access to. The things that I may not have access to, I'm hoping that my kids will have access to in the future, and so forth. I think that's the evolution of a people. That's the evolution of a country. If you're not making it better, you're making it worse.
How true is it that when you were growing up and playing sports, that your mom would sometimes have to bring your birth certificate because people wouldn't believe that you were the same age as their kids?
Yeah, that's very true, because I was a pretty thick, strong kid, and yes, I was a little bit bigger than most, and I was well coordinated. I was extremely coordinated. I mean, you tell me somebody that can throw a football, I probably could have got into the punt, kick, and pass, the pass, kick, and punt contest and done very well. Because I could throw a football at a young age, 45, 50 yards.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I could just sling it. And I could run, I could catch with one hand. I knew how to tackle. I was real aggressive. I was a real aggressive football player, and I knew what to do with the football once I got it in my hand. You did not have to tell me what to do with it. You get it put in my hand, I knew what to do with it. It came so natural, and you could see the instincts instantly.
And I mean, it wasn't just limited to football either, because I think you were leading the county in scoring in basketball in your 8th grade year, yet you end up stopping playing to run track.
Yeah.
Because it could help you better in football, is that right?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, like you said, I did lead the county in basketball. I was pretty decent. I really was. I was pretty decent. Of course, I could jump out the roof. I could almost dunk a basketball in the 8th grade. Wow. And so, but once I got to high school.
And you aren't even 5'10".
Yeah, I was about 5'9" and a half. In the 8th grade, I remember being measured at 5'9" and a half in the 8th grade.
Wow.
And I haven't grown since.
Right, I was gonna say.
So I grew early and stopped.
Yeah.
Everybody else kept growing. And so, but I remember when I got to high school, I was going to go out for basketball, and Coach Norm Ross told me, he said, "Listen, son, I've seen you play football." He said, "You probably would have a better chance of going places in football than basketball." He said, because I made the varsity squad. He said, "Now, you made the squad, but I'm not going to play you that much because I don't want you to get hurt on my watch." He said, "So I recommend you go on the track, work on your speed, do the things that are complementary to football." And I did do that, but I yearned to play basketball.
The Cowboys scout that was instrumental in drafting you wrote in his report that you would someday make Cowboys fans forget about the Hall of Famer Tony Dorsett, who used to run for them. And then, draft day comes and you're, expected to go very high.
Right.
Tell about what happens and then the call you get from the coach, Jimmy Johnson.
Well, every player comes out and there's these experts that have their mock drafts, and I was projected to go in the top 10. And so looking at the top 10 at that time, I thought I had a chance to go to Tampa Bay, which was obviously only 2.5 or an hour and a half from Gainesville, which made sense to me. I thought I had a chance. If I didn't go there, I thought I would have a chance to go to Seattle and play out in Seattle. And so when the top 5 went by and Tampa Bay passed me over, then Seattle passed me over, then the top 10 went by, I did not know what was going to happen. I didn't know. I started to get very nervous because I wanted to go in the top 10. Then I fell back to the 17th pick. And by that time, the Cowboys made a trade, and I got a call from Jimmy saying we're gonna draft you, and how would you like to wear a star on your helmet? And it was like a dream come true for me. Because I had loved the Cowboys when I was 7 years old, and I still love them to this day. So no offense to Arizona, but being out there, the Bid Wills, they always treated me with respect. They took care of me. I loved them, and still do to this day, respect them wholeheartedly. But coming back in Texas Stadium and playing as an Arizona Cardinal versus playing as a Dallas Cowboy absolutely broke my heart. It shattered it. And I knew right then and there.
And why did that affect you so much?
Because for 13 years, I had got dressed in the home locker room. For 13 years, I had played on Thanksgiving Day. For 13 years, I played for the organization that I always wanted to play for, in a sport that I absolutely loved, a sport that I believe chose me, and a sport that, to me, is everything that any person want to learn about life must play, because football is one of those life sports. It teaches you about sacrifices and not only commitment and getting knocked down and getting back up and having the confidence that you need. It teaches you how to overcome obstacles and challenges and injuries and so forth, how to push through injuries and so on. And it's the agony it's the thrill of the victory and the agony of defeat. It's all of those things. Teach you how to be humble. Because you have to forget about what you did the year before, and you have to start over every year to chase after that ring every year. And you have to work hard. Your work ethic has to be on point from start to finish throughout the entire offseason. And you have to take care of your body. You have to get rest. You have to make those personal sacrifices of some of the things that you really want to do, you know that you cannot do. Because you have to take care of this temple that God has blessed you with to go out there and do your job to the best of your ability. All of those things. And that day, getting dressed in the visitors' locker room. Hardly ever been in the visitors' locker room in 13 years.
Right.
I'm walking into the visitors' locker room and I'm sitting in my locker and I'm thinking that my team is on the other side of the wall. And I could not get over that. It broke my heart so much, I cried for almost 30 minutes sitting in my locker while all my other Cardinal teammates was walking around looking at me like, wow. I cried like a baby and went on the field and got hurt and came back in, and it was like, this just didn't work out well.
Yeah.
And so the only thing I could think of was honoring out my commitment, because my mom and many coaches finish what you start. And that's what I wanted to do for the Cardinals. I wanted to finish what I started with the Arizona Cardinals. I wanted to honor out my contract, which I did. And what I'm thankful of is I gave them everything I had left. And what I'm proud of the fact is I ended my last football season the same way I started it. 930 some odd yards to the number.
How bitter were you that the Cowboys released you before that?
I wasn't bitter at all.
You weren't?
No, because I knew I wanted to continue to play. I felt like I still had something to prove. I wasn't bitter that the fact that I knew Jerry had to make a tough decision. They wanted to go younger with Troy Hambrick, who was stronger, faster, bigger, back than I was, and I understood it. It was just business at that time.
Yeah.
And so they had to make a business decision.
I wanted to take you to the Super Bowls.
Right.
Obviously, you have a few of those rings. Your first Super Bowl, though, you apparently got more exhausted in the pregame warm-ups than you have in any other game, period.
Yes.
Why? I should say you got more exhausted in the pregame warm-ups than you have actually gotten exhausted in any actual game.
In any actual game. You're absolutely correct. And I think it was all because of the anxiety and the build-up of playing in your very first Super Bowl. And the focus of wanting to do your best in that particular game and not being that guy to make the mistake that cost your team the victory. You stepped on that football field, you step out there knowing that in the next 3 to 4 hours, my life will be changed forever, one way or the other. Either I'm gonna be on the winning side and I'm gonna be on the losing side. I don't wanna be on the losing side. And so that anxiety itself was enough to wear me out before the game actually got started.
There was a perceived Sports Illustrated Super Bowl cover jinx. Is it true that you had your agent actually reach out to Sports Illustrated to try and get you off the cover?
Yes. When we played Buffalo and down in Atlanta.
Super Bowl 28.
Super Bowl 28. I'll never forget this. This was on a Wednesday night. My agent, Warner Scott, and Larry Lundy and I are riding around in a limousine in Atlanta going to various parties. Same night I probably met Michael Jordan and Magic. And Larry got in the car and said, "Big dog, we got some good news for you." I'm like, "Really? What's the good news?" I'm thinking like somebody want me to endorse their product. And so I'm like getting all excited. Guess who got the Sports Illustrated cover this week? I'm like, "Who?" They're like, "You." I said, "Oh no." I said, "Have y'all heard about the Sports Illustrated jinx?" I mean, like, that is a jinx. Y'all gonna put me on the Sports Illustrated cover before the Super Bowl? I'm like, that's crazy. Y'all gotta call them and get me off the cover. They say, "It's too late now." Too late. And then Warner leaned over and said this to me. He said, "Dog, I suggest you change your attitude. I looked him square dead in the eye. I said, you know what? You're right. I said, I don't care nothing about no jinx. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do my thing, regardless.
So Super Bowl 28, Bills are ahead of the Cowboys 13-6. It's halftime, and your Hall of Fame wide receiver Michael Irvin storms in, and what does he scream at halftime?
Man, Michael's screaming all the time, so it's kind of hard to remember what exactly Michael was saying. But I do know this much: we're coming off the field, and there's a somber moment. Michael saying, "We got to get him back. We got to get him in the second half for sure," and Jimmy and Norv, then they come to me 2 different times. And Jimmy says, we're gonna run the football the second half. Then Norv comes to me and says, get ready, because we're gonna run the football the second half. And I can see my offensive lineman getting geeked up, yeah, because they wanted to run the rock. So the second half, we come out, the Bills make the fatal mistake. They turned the football over on their first possession. And what made it worse, James Washington picked it up and ran it back for a touchdown to tie the score up. Then they kicked off, so our defense is all jacked up. They go 1, 2, 3 and out and punt the ball to us. And we ran the same play 6 straight times. And then we threw a pass in the flat that was incomplete. Then we ran on the 8th play of that drive, ran power right. I break a tackle and I go for 20 yards for a touchdown. Game over. The Bills don't know what hit them. You can see the life just leave. And you see it in the highlight tape on the sideline when their coach is cussing them out left and right, from sun up to sun down. You gotta strike that son of a, bop, 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 just going off on them. I mean, and they sitting around like, what just happened? And we just took control of the game.
The 93 season finale, Cowboys and Giants, NFC East titles on the line. The winner of that game gets home field advantage of the playoffs. Take me to that defining moment of your career.
I think every player has a defining moment in their career, and that right there was the one for me, because there was so much at stake. That also was the year that I missed the first 2 games of the season.
And you still win the rushing title.
Yeah. As Rich Dalrymple used to tell me, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And every week he used to just say, I used to look at the stats and I'm like, man, I'm behind by 200 yards. He said, just keep chipping away. He would say that every week, just keep chipping away. And then finally in week 17, we play in New York, and everything is on the line. We got to win this game to secure home field advantage, and not only that, but win the NFC East outright. And we playing in New York on the road, cold day, and we having a good start. We're on a roll. I take a handoff, an inside trap play, break it out to the right side, Giants side, and I'm gone. It's about 40 yards later, 50 yards later, Greg Jackson, whom I played against in college at LSU, comes up to me on the inside, rides me to the ground, hit the ground funny, clavicle pops out of my AC area. And so now I have an AC separation, not knowing what it was, but I knew it felt pretty bad. And I come off the field, they do the analysis, they take me to the locker room, analyze my shoulder, they call it a grade 2 separation, probably was a grade 3, because I could bounce my clavicle up and down with my hand.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, it wasn't fun at all. And so mentally, I know what's at stake. And when you see the doctors and staff go over to a corner and huddle up in the corner and have a private conversation while you're laying there, you know something's not right. Yeah. So, but Kevin O'Neill comes back and he says, we need you in this game. And I'm like, I know. They gave me some stuff for the pain. I think it may have been a Vicodin at the time. They put 2 knee pads together, cut a hole, made a donut out of it, laid it on my shoulder, strapped it to my shoulder to give me a little extra padding under my shoulder pads. And I trust that was all I could do. I wasn't going to damage it any further. And North said, we're going to probably try to use you as a decoy. I'm like, okay. Michael said, I need you to stay in the game. Just act like you're going to run the football so they can just line up.
Michael Irvin.
Irvin. And so went back there thinking that I'm going to be a decoy for a whole half. Something changed. The Giants start coming back. The game get very interesting. And they start calling my number. And I'm like saying, okay, here we go. And the first time I hit the ground, I can hear my chest just cracking, sound like knuckles popping. Pain is shooting, radiating. And I'm just saying, oh my gosh. But I can't come out. I can't come out. I got to stay in the game. I got to stay in the game for the whole third and fourth quarter, including the overtime. And I just kept running, just kept running. And that's all I could ever think about. Everything got quiet. I was in my own zone. I was in my own happy place, if you will. And that's how I was able to get through the game. Not only that, but my teammates was encouraging me. And I kept coming back to the huddle, tears running out of my eyes, Troy looking at me saying, you all right? Yeah, just call the play. Just call the play. And it was a run play. And I'm like, okay. And he just kept saying, hang in there, man, hang in there.
To what extent on the team's flight home, you were playing in New York, flight back to Dallas, did the team actually consider stopping in a random city to get you to the hospital sooner?
Yeah, because after the game, I'm so thankful that we won the game. I don't even recall seeing the field goal go between the uprights because I was in so much pain. So I went and got on the bus, and then on the plane ride back, the pain was so intense because of the air altitude and everything else. I was trying to knock my shoulder out of place up against a wall because it was hurting so bad. And they came, they held me down. I think the doc may have given me a shot, and I went back out. Then I woke up again, pow, banging it up against the window, screaming, it was hurting. And Kevin O'Neill said, hey man, we may have to land this plane in Memphis to get you to a hospital. I'm like, no, just get me back to Dallas. I said, if I'm gonna die, I wanna die in Dallas.
Tell about when you really got injured on the Bears turf. You lost all the feeling on your left side and you thought your career
I thought my career was over. I mean, injuries do come, and I never thought I would get injured faking like I had the football. And so we had a play down on the goal line where I tried to act like I had the ball and I was diving over the top. And I came down awkwardly on my shoulder, pinched maybe a nerve in my back, and it didn't feel good. And I lost feeling on the side, I want to say on my left side. And they carted me off, and all I could see was the moon. And so coming off the field and going into the stadium, underneath the stadium, and everybody's circling around you and talking, and you can't see them, but all you can do is move your eyes left and right. Can't move your head, and all of a sudden Walter Payton shows up, right over my head, whispering in my ear, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. Don't worry about it, you're gonna be okay. Kissing me on the forehead, talking to Rich, talking to everybody in there. I didn't even know he was in the stands at the time. And so it comforted me for the moment, but my idol was standing right over me. It was a great thing to know that he was there. And so they whisked me off to the hospital. And I recall hearing him say to Rich, here's my number. If he needs anything, call me. Just give me an update. And that was that. And so it was cool just to have him there. But moments like that are rare moments for, injuries will occur, but to be injured and to have one of your idols actually come down and check on you was phenomenal.
You first met Walter Payton at the 95 awards ceremony, and he made a point of coming over and sitting next to you. What do you recall from what you guys talked about?
We talked about everything under the sun. We talked about the game of football. We talked about his career. We talked about his work ethic. We talked about his eating habits. We talked about his recovery habits. We talked about transitioning from the game, business, and all those things. We talked about family. We talked about not losing yourself. We talked about all of those things. And it seemed like a whole day, but it was probably a matter of an hour. But having a conversation with someone that you looked up to for so long, and to have that insight from someone that was the ultimate or the consummate professional, it was cool.
His nickname was Sweetness, and you actually had
I
on
had
your Letterman
I had
jacket.
Sweetness on my Letterman jacket in high school.
In high school, right.
Yeah.
I mean, you really looked up to him growing up. What did he ask you to do with his son?
You know, during the time when he got ill, I'd never, at that point in time in my life, I'd never seen a person with so much strength to face his situation the way he did. There he was, a man that was actually dying, encouraging me. And in return, I mean, basically, I had to ask the question, is there anything I could do? And he said, no, he said, I'm good. He said, I'm at peace with where I'm at. He said, but every now and then, just reach out to my son, Jared, and make sure that he's okay. Stay in touch with him and just be there for him if he needs you. And that was it. And I was like, that's not a problem. I would do that. And, you know, but the encouraging part was to watch a man who had played the same sport that I played, same position, done the things that I've done, and watch him face death the way he did with his attitude was incredible. But it was heart-wrenching too, because as a football player, you want your idol to be there someday if you do something very, very special. If you surpass him in anything, you want to celebrate it with him. And that opportunity never happened. But I had the opportunity of celebrating it with his family. And that means just as much.
He died at 45 years old, and a few days after that, the Cowboys are playing the Vikings.
Yeah.
And you said that game, that night, was unlike anything you've ever experienced before, including the 3 Super Bowl victories.
Because
what?
I felt his spirit that night, and I said, you know what? Tonight I want to dedicate this night to him. I want to go out, and I wanted it to be the best night I've ever had in my professional career. I wanted to go out and rush for over 275 yards and break his single season rushing record. That's what I wanted to do. And man, I was on a mission. I was on my way until I broke my hand in the second quarter. And that night was full of emotions because I wanted it for him. I wanted to do it for him. I wanted to say this night, this performance was dedicated to him.
And it still, I mean, it still gets you a little emotional talking about to this day. He meant a lot to you.
I mean, he did. I mean, he was a great man, and I just loved the way he handled himself on the football field, handled himself off the football field. Even some of the referees that I joke around with, they say I remind them of him, because I joke with them just the way he used to. And I didn't even know he used to joke with them.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, that's the ultimate compliment. When someone says that you remind them of someone that you looked up to as an athlete, that's kind of cool.
Booze, drugs, girls, the kind of the excesses of the Cowboys of the 90s, stories have become that of legend. How hard was it to avoid getting caught up in all of that excess?
You know, I could point to a couple of occasions where I learned very valuable lessons. One of those occasions happens in college when I got suspended with some of my teammates for fighting. And the headlines read Smith and 11 others. That's all they read. So I learned there that lesson of being guilty by association, and your name will make headlines. Another one occurred in my career as a Dallas Cowboy, the night with James Washington My rookie year here in Dallas, and obviously I just got drafted probably 2 weeks prior to our first camp, or 10 days prior to our first camp. And James Washington, who actually had a vehicle at the time, a white Mercedes, he and I decided, a bunch of us decided to go to a nightclub. And James and I did not know the way, but he only knew one way that somebody told him. And so we ride down the street called Harry Hines, and Harry Hines is a street where some night walkers hang out at. And I didn't know this. I didn't know the severity of it until we got pulled over by some Dallas cops. And they got out. Some of them had the guns drawn. They come and approaching the car, and they shine the lights, and people don't, and the cops probably, they know what they're doing because they shine the light to the point where it's in your face where you can't see nothing anyway. Yeah. So if you disoriented and moving around, I can see how they can put a cap in somebody easy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we put our hands up out the window and so forth, and they asking for driver's license and everything else, treating us like criminals, like we about to do something wrong, all because we're in a Mercedes-Benz. So we driving while black, be honest with you. And these are black cops. So it's not like these are white cops, these are black cops. So at the end of the day, they tell us, guys, do y'all know what street y'all on? I'm like, man, I'm new to this city. How would I know this? Right. And so he started to explain to us what street we are on, and I'm like, okay, cool. James driving. We got out, where they let us go. And right then and there, I said I learned my second valuable lesson.
What'd you learn from it?
I learned never to ride with anybody. Drive yourself. Right. You can leave when you want to, you can go where you want, and everything else. Then I learned a valuable lesson one night, hanging out in Dallas. Before we played the Giants one night, I hung out with a friend of mine. We hung out to about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning.
This is so the morning of a game now.
No, this is not the morning of the game. This is the Friday night before we departed to go to New York.
I got it, okay.
So I get home about 5. The plane departs at 10. So I get about 2 or 3 hours of sleep, right? And I'm wore out. Well, the next day we playing, and we jump on New York behind. And I'm running. I'm having a great game. But in the first half, we scored 30-some points on them in the first half. And I'm having a good game. But I'm in a huddle, and I'm gasping for air. I can't hardly breathe. My legs are just numb. I turn to Mike. I said, Mike, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my legs. And so after that game, New York comes back, and we barely wins the game. On the ride back, I said right then, I said, you know what? I can't do this no more. I cannot do this no more. It's either the streets or it's my career.
Yeah.
So I had to make a decision. And I said, you know what? If I'm gonna party, I'm only gonna party. I'm gonna party up to Thursday if I want to, but I'm shutting it down.
Yeah.
I'm not doing these things no more. Then I said, you know what? That's that. So you learn lessons along the way, and there are signs that you're going down the wrong path. And you try to correct those things before they get too bad.
How out of control was it, though, as a team, the partying in the 90s?
I wouldn't say. That depends on your definition of out of control.
Oh, sure.
I mean.
Okay, by normal people's standards.
Well, what you don't know what normal people are doing. You just don't know. I mean, they just not caught. They're just not publicized the way it is. I mean.
Okay, compared to what your life is now.
Oh, I'm married now. I got five kids now. I have deeper responsibilities. At the time, I was single.
Right.
So, to each their own. As long as you're a single man, and there are single people out there that enjoy being single. And so at the end of the day, I mean, you just have to learn how to do things in moderation. And that's what I learned as well. So
once and for all, what was the White House?
I can't talk about the White House. It's not my place to talk about the White House. I mean, the White House is where George Bush was at, along with Bill Clinton, and so we visited the White House 3 times.
So this wasn't a place the Cowboys rented for the party?
I don't know what you're talking about.
To what extent do you think the excessiveness played a role in kind of the downfall of the team?
You know what? I think excessiveness plays a role in everybody's career, in everybody's life. Success sometimes make you think that you're invincible and that you could do almost anything. But the true strength of having success is being able to control it and not allow it to take control of you. Not be arrogant with it, or to the point where you allow people to embrace you the way that they want to embrace you, and you're okay with it because you know who you are and what you've been able to accomplish. Being self-confident, not self-arrogant in that regard. And that's, to me, I see that happening quite a bit in just about anybody. Whether you're in business, sometimes you get business and now you're too big for your britches. Same thing in sport. Same thing in life. I mean, people get to certain levels and they think that they have arrived. And so they forget the journey and the process that they've gone through to get to that point. That's something that I try not to ever forget, is what it takes to not only be where I'm at, but sustain where I'm at and take it even further. And I think that keeps things in perspective.
How concerned are you by the potential long-term side effects that having played for so long will have on you?
I am concerned. I am very concerned, and here's why. No man in the National Football League has carried a football more than I have, which means I've been hit more times than anybody in the National Football League. No one has rushed for more yardage than I have. So that meant that I ran a long ways. But just the hits themselves, when I think about guys like Tony Dorsett and Rayfield Wright and many others right now that are dealing with those head trauma issues, yes, it is a concern. I'm only 45 right now. And when I think about these guys in their mid to late 50s. And so 10 more years, talk to me.
It's not that far away then.
It's not that far away, but 10 more years, talk to me. Let's see how I'm doing then. And that to me probably would say a lot. But what I'm doing right now, I'm on the preventative side. I'm taking the initiative to establish a baseline and monitor myself probably every year or every 2 years if I have to, all according to what the doctors request. And so far, I'm doing okay.
And you have gout, which is severe arthritis.
Yes.
How does that affect you?
It only affects when I have a flare. My uric acid levels were extremely high. Therefore, whenever I had a flare up and it attacked some of my joints, and it attacked my big toe and my right point finger. But as long as I keep my uric acid levels in check, I think I will be okay with gout. I can manage that piece.
Any other effects currently from playing?
No. I mean, my neck is jacked up. My head is always tilted to the right or to the left, which I can't tell you which way. When I'm looking in the mirror, it's like it's to the right, maybe it's to the left, but I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's jacked
that's
up.
from the playing.
Yeah, well, it is from the hits to the head.
Right.
And my neck is jacked up, and so that part. Outside of that, it doesn't really give me a whole lot of issues, but. Outside of that, I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain.
The NFL settled with the retired players for $765 million.
That's
money
nothing.
That's intended.
That's nothing.
What?
That's nothing.
Right, the money that's intended to cover the medical issue.
It's only like $20,000 a player. $20,000 a player. That's nothing. I mean, no offense to somebody that think $20,000 a lot, but $20,000, you just go to the hospital one time, it's gone. That's how quick $20,000 can go. Heck, I got $15,000 worth of repairment that I got to do to my house. $20,000 gone. Quick. And what the issues that we all gonna be dealing with, it's gonna cost a lot more than $20,000.